Hello guys, this is Alex Julian or Aloysius Anderman here, and tonight I will be reviewing a movie for you called Peter Pan here for videotape. In this case, this would be something I purchased from eBay, as you can see, and it says fully restored 45th limited edition, 45th anniversary. And it even says on the back, and now beautifully restored for the 45th anniversary limited edition, this flight of fantasy will captivate your entire family and remind us that all that childhood dreams never die. I'm doing a little bit of a misreading here just to kind of read between the lines and to kind of dart on some things. Okay, so the grammar of this videotape obviously gets darty, and definitely there's something to remark on that. Now let's give a toast to Peter Pan with this cowboy soda mug here, and I will pour some Diet Pepsi here into this classic tin mug exclusively made for soda drinking. Yeah, not coffee so much, soda drinking. It's traditional with West to drink soda out of a tin cup because the tin cup can store the chill of the soda better. So here's the Diet Pepsi, if you will, with the soda mug. And let's give a toast on that. And I could have this polite sort of tea party style, except it's a soda party. And I could have the soda party with you with a talk show about Peter Pan from Disney from a long time ago. It's a very old movie. Very old movie. And in fact, I even did a video or two on DeviantArt with me acting and portraying myself as some of the characters in voice and tone. So I'm aware of it, you know. That's better. So, what is it about this movie that we should be particular on when it comes to reviewing style of this come and go fashion of movie theaters and video cassettes? Well, definitely, this video cassette fails to really be fully remastered. Compared to the original videotape version of Peter Pan, because videotape does get inferior somehow with modern technology. And we have to remember that some things from the past become relics. And I think a lot of videotapes are examples of relics from the past, as in the kinds of old things that not only are from the past, but they are beyond obsolete. They are offensive even, because there could be quality issues. There could be quantity issues. There could be reason issues. There could be cause issues. There could be ethics issues. There could be moral issues. There could be behavior issues. There could be history issues. There could be political issues. And let me drink a little bit more of this Pepsi in this classic Cowboys tin mug. Now, this would be something that would be more everlasting. This tin mug here. And drinking of the soda from this mug. So, where should we go? Well, definitely one thing is for sure. This movie by Disney betrays the original book by the original author of the Peter Pan book. Because Peter Pan was originally from the book, which has a style of cupidity to it. It's about fairies, it's about bloodshed, it's about fighting pirates in outer space called the Neverland. And it does have a lot of European style to it to conflict with silly ideas of where man goes with random frolic of the adventure into the wild. And definitely the book of Peter Pan, I highly recommend to people in case they are not familiar with the book. And this Disney version of Peter Pan betrays the book. It does not show what the book is made of. I used to like this movie by Disney. I used to like it. But then when I went and read the book of Peter Pan and referred back to the movie, I found it disappointing that in the movie they were using a lot of euphemisms, a lot of cliches, even a lot of the color theory of Peter Pan at this moment of time would be so bland and so plain and so ordinary. In fact, even below ordinary, because it's not so ordinary. And it has a lot of that issue of like an anti-book reference to the book, and it gets into silly television features, silly TV show gimmicks, and I'll be honest, I used to be a fan of this movie, but really, after reading the book and getting to the movie again, now I just look at it as just like an irrelevant goofball mechanic. And it's not something that I really laugh at anymore. In fact, I would even watch it and be like, oh, geez, what is going on here? And I say that with a lot of reason for it, because the original Peter Pan book was violent to an extent, and it was about the terror and frustration of conflictive fairies, conflictive fairy characters. And the original book of Peter Pan had a lot of drama and fascination for it. And it has a lot of literary merit. And I'm talking about the book here for Peter Pan. The original book of Peter Pan has so much fanaticism and so much drama and so much tragedy, and it gets into that whole thing of the whole confusion of age and history and fashion and maturity and experiences, so much that Wendy eventually in the book for Peter Pan becomes an enemy against Peter Pan because of where Peter Pan comes from, which is Neverland, where he could be a boy practically forever, and see Wendy as an old and aging, rotten sort of spoiler, if you will. And definitely, I mean, the original book of Peter Pan, the original book, just has so much fascination for the words, the English language, and there would be the play of the English language, the play with the bed bugs, the play with the bugbears, the play with, all this catastrophe of pirates in their lost and forgotten dreams, searching through the islands of the book, and I actually have the original book of Peter Pan. I do, believe it or not, and I have the original book by the original author, and I think Disney tried to cover up the original Peter Pan book and try to make it seem like some sort of Looney Tunes episode, of which it never was in the book, anything like that. It was never supposed to be something of like a Looney Tunes experience. It was supposed to be something more like Shakespeare, more like tragedy, more like romance, more like comedy, even of, the horror and the terror of fighting against pirates in this Neverland space. And I mean, sure, the movie does get funny in certain ways, but the problem is something can be funny even when it lacks quality. Something can be funny even when it lacks quantity, if you will. Something can be funny when nothing is working out. So just the word funny, in terms of literary vocabulary, the word funny is redundant. In some cases, and this is one of them for the Peter Pan book and the Peter Pan movie, because the original Peter Pan book I could find to be a really respectable work of literature, a masterpiece, if you will. Whereas on the other hand, that's not the same thing I could say for the movie. In fact, there are so many moments in the movie where I feel like saying to the movie directors and the movie creators of the movie, I feel like telling them, please stop. Just stop. You're making Peter Pan more like a Looney Tune, and you're taking it out of context. You're fighting against literature by being so anti-book with the anti-reference to the original book of Peter Pan, and you're attacking it. And now, as evidence, when it comes to Disney and a lot of that anti-book reference with Disney works, now the movie theaters are struggling to make money, and that is because movie theaters have made so many mistakes over the years that consumers are getting sick and tired of it. And one of the common things that was going on that was frustrating so many people with the movie theaters was movie theaters were too often giving out movies that were anti-book, that were anti-reading, that were anti-study, that were anti-memorization, that were anti-intelligence, that were anti-maturity. And it got into a lot of this stupid, silly stuff. And, it does act as unfair competition towards books. Because you cannot blame a book for being a book, just like how you cannot blame a tiger for being a tiger. I mean, there are things that just have those natures, and it feels disappointing when Disney still tries to claw away at origins just for the sakes of trying to make everything young again in the universe, but that's impossible because history is there, and history is not only a subject, history is a reality, and there's so much to say about literature that cannot be denied. And yeah, I mean, call this a lecture, call this a review, call this a critic, call this a reviewer, call this a critic, but that's what I am with this review I'm doing, with these thoughts that I'm imploring on with Disney, And now Disney is all of a sudden trying to say that the enemy is a TV screen. That the enemy is a TV screen. Some TV screen thing that you could hold in your hand. Well, that's self-defeating. I mean, because then what about all that commotion of going to see the movies? So, right now, I do not know what Disney is trying to intend with their movies or with their classics. And classics can fall out of use. I mean, just when you go to Rotten Tomatoes, for example, and when you look at reviews for Disney movies from the past, you soon realize that some Disney movies from the past have fallen out of popularity, where nobody really cares so much about these movies anymore because they would get embarrassing or they would get fragile to modern life. They could get obsolete, they could get broken somehow in the meaning. They could become cliche, or they could become fruitless, or they could expire. Kind of like milk that is too old. Like it expires. Let me have this toast here of Diet Pepsi to you, and remind you that I am a Disney fan. I am, and I still watch Disney movies from time to time, and I have to put my cowboy mug right in the center of this world I'm in, and just remind my audience that, hey, I care about books and I care about movies, and I think there should be more of an understanding between book readers and moviegoers, because some book readers I hate, and some moviegoers I hate because they get egotistic or arrogant or vulgar or unreasonable. And I think there should be more harmony in the community that we're living in, so it's not all divided and all conflictive and all silly and nonsensical all the time. Let's give a toast on that with this traditional soda tin. Ugh. Yeah. What could we do about the movie industry today? What can we do about the TV industry today? Well, movies bring movies unto themselves, and books bring books unto themselves. And definitely, there's a lot of conflicting of political science with political fashion going on in this world. Now, just so you know, most American voters in American politics are not fans of political science. Instead, they are fans of patriotic fashion or even national, worldwide fashion. And definitely, there's a lot of conflict in this world of airs to breathe and whether to experience. And who knows what could go on when it comes to this whole tragedy of past cartoons, old cartoons, where it's beyond a generation gap merely in some cases. In some cases, with these cartoons from the past, I mean, these cartoons from the past can be so despicable. They can be so nonsensical. They can be so unfunny and unfair. And I think a lot of it is because in the past, in the motions of the film industry, film companies, as in TV show and movie companies, were often making film just for the sakes of making film. And some ideas from the past become so obsolete. I mean, watching these old, obsolete, like beyond obsolete TV and movie moments can be like experiencing a mental hallucination. So, for example, do any of you guys remember an episode of Golden Girls on TV, a TV show, and the lady is dreaming of being in the Soviet Union? That's an example of something that is so obsolete. It violates elementary education. And in this case, that show violated a very basic principle in elementary school education, which is never talk to strangers. And that includes foreigners from other countries, such as the Soviet Union at the time, what was communist Russia. You do not talk to strangers in real life. I mean, in real life, if you need to conduct businesses with strangers, you need to address them, as in salute them, or basically, if you need to interact with strangers to get business done, it has to be formal. It has to be with a direct and rational connection for the business being conducted. You cannot just talk to strangers. Does that make sense? Well, it's not like literally like you never talk to strangers, but it's like you cannot just talk to them because we do read literature that gives us information already, and we do not need to go into society and cause a lot of commotion and worrisomeness when it comes to where ideas go, where objects go, where reasons go. And definitely I will say this. Human nature does exist. Human nature does exist. And the original book of Peter Pan was a great revelation of human nature and a lot of the fantastic elements of surprise with the ongoing imagination that surpasses the page and brings us into modern life with reading of the old to escape for new and interesting ideas, such as like how an old book can over and over again bring us to modern terms of modern technology and modern understanding. And the Peter Pan book is still relevant today because it gives that magnitude, that ongoing length of oceanomics, if you will, when it comes to the conflict of Captain Hook and Peter Pan, pirates versus lost boys. So think about it this way. Are lost boys really different than pirates? And are pirates really different than lost boys? Well, there's that drama in the book, if you will, of Peter Pan. And well, when you look at this, just when you look at this front cover of Peter Pan, and when you get into the whole movie of Peter Pan, you realize they failed to read the book appropriately, and they misrepresented the book of Peter Pan by just making a cartoon out of it. And the original Peter Pan book was not a cartoon. And it does get unfunny. It does get unserious. It does get unrealistic. It does get headache inducing. So what would I rate for this Peter Pan movie? Well, the Peter Pan movie does have interesting action, but it's irrelevant and irrational to the cause of book and literature. And for that reason, as a grade for the movie, I give it a D. Really, when it comes to the whole sense of it, I would give it 2 stars out of 5. Because it's like there are some things in the movie that could seem to work in some way, shape, or form, such as with such of the tragedy of Captain Hook and the importance of life and death in the circle of life. But in the end of it, the movie tends to trail off into a lot of unimportant humor and unimportant sense and unimportant tricks and unimportant magic just to hide the fact that it does not respect the book and it does not respect the writing ability of the author of the book, and it fails for that reason. Take care and remember, have a good night and wish upon a star even with this going